From the cricket pitch, to the long jump pit, to the boardroom, our speakers today have one thing in common. They don't just play the game, they change it. Today, in this electrifying conversation, we have three innovators who have redefined sports and strategy.
Cricket isn't just a sport in India, it's a religion. And today, we have one of its greatest deities with us. A match winner, a fighter, and an ultimate team man. He ruled the pitch for over 18 glorious years, claiming 619 test wickets, the third highest in history. Who can forget his legendary 10-wicket haul in a single innings, or the moment he bowled with a fractured jaw in Antigua, proving that true warriors wear cricket whites? From leading India's bowling attack to coaching the national team and mentoring IPL giants, he has shaped the sport at every level. As we discuss the Asian century and the rise of cricket, who better to weigh in than the man who put India on top of the ICC Test rankings?
Padma Shri Anju Bobby George. She doesn't just leap over hurdles, she absolutely shatters them. One of India's greatest track and field athletes, she made history by winning a bronze medal at the 2003 World Championships in Paris. The first Indian woman to do so. Her achievements include setting a national record in long jump that still stands strong. She has also been re-elected as the Vice President of the Athletics Federation of India. But her work doesn't end at the finish line. She is now a sports ambassador and mentor, helping young athletes soar to new heights. Her latest endeavor? Launching the Anju Bobby George Foundation, which aims to nurture athletic talent across India. With an eye on the future and her feet firmly grounded in her legacy, she is turning the spotlight not just on herself, but on the next generation of champions. After all, she's always been about helping others jump higher, run faster, and aim for the gold.
Dr. Ray Titus is a business strategist, consumer behavior expert, and academic leader, serving as Pro Vice Chancellor, Incubation and Innovation, and Dean of Alliance School of Business. With dual MBAs and a doctorate, he has taught at IIM Bangalore, SP Jain, and AIT Thailand. His industry experience spans strategic growth, marketing, and digital transformation. A frequent media commentator, he has authored Yuva India, Round the Clock, and Business Drama. As the founder of Dubbit Lab, he explores digital habits and consumer insights, shaping the future of marketing and innovation.
Alliance University, the legends, Anil Kumble, Anju Bobby George in the house. A big round of applause. Yeah, thank you so much. Let me first state that it's such an honor and privilege to have both of you here. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Thank you so much. It's really nice to be a part of this literary fest at the Alliance University. Good morning, everyone. I've been to a couple of literary fests, but never seen such a large crowd. So well done to all of you who are here, and really looking forward to our session.
Thank you so much for being here. Anju ma'am.
Hi, good morning everyone, and I'm extremely proud and happy to be here with you all today. And this is such a wonderful audience, I guess we are going to get here. And yes, we can start.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Yeah. Once again, round of applause, everyone. You know, there is this scene in the movie Gladiator, where Maximus, the protagonist, is about to fight a huge army with the Roman army. And he says something to his army to try and motivate them. He tells them, what we do in life echoes in eternity. And I think, in effect, he was trying to tell his army that there are those defining moments in life that pretty much shadow everything else that we have done, which is why they're called defining moments. And so I want to start the discussion with a question on what have been those defining moments in your lives where you thought that, hey, this is pretty much going to go out there, set a certain identity for me. It pretty much is going to define everything that I've done. I know probably it's not a single moment, it's probably multiple moments. But what are those defining moments that you can look back and see and say, hey, that pretty much dictated it. Yeah, ma'am, we can start with you.
Yeah, I can start with my international journey. I was a normal student. I was a normal athlete, a national level medalist. But at the age of 18, unfortunately, I got a very bad injury on my takeoff leg. And it was a very bad, and doctor said, that is the end of your career, and go back. But I was just hanging around the national camp thinking, what can I do and how can I pursue? Because I was that much interested in sports. And I knew that my talent is something different. But one day, the national chief coach, the camp chief coach came and he asked me, why you're around? Doctors advise you to go back to home, then why you're still here? That moment I realized and I decided I should show him what I am and what I can. There are multiple incidents, same like just before the World Championship in Paris, again when I dictated with a single kidney and the other issues related, the doctors again advised me, you are here for the World Championship, but I'm so sorry to say that, again the same word, go back to your country and take rest. It's good for you, otherwise it's, you're going to harm your body. Then I decided, I want to show the world what's my talent, and I got a bronze.
Thank you. I mean, that's truly inspirational for our young students out here. Thank you so much for sharing that. Anand?
I think there have been many defining moments. First of all, just making it to a under 15 state team for Karnataka, because when you play cricket, there are millions of people who play the sport. Then when you try and attend a selection trial, you have literally so many people wanting to make it to that squad. So how do you sort of stand out? You just have to probably be destined, because there are multiple talented kids at that age group where there's not much difference when you look at talent or at that age. So how do you get into that squad? So for me, the defining moment was getting into that state squad at 15, because that meant that I have an opportunity to go and showcase and play for the state amongst other, representing millions of people who aspire to be a part of a team. Then from there on, it just was performance on the field, and I was fortunate that I was able to move from 15 to 17, then 19, and of course for the state team. All of that happened in 1 year, in 1989, when I played for India under 19s and played for Karnataka and immediately played for India in that same year.
Wow.
So I think the defining moment was when you get that opportunity, because for some people the opportunity comes at a very young age. The moment you sort of step in, you get that opportunity and you have to make the best use of it. For some people, you keep striving hard and you don't know when that comes to you. So when that comes to you, you need to take that. And that's something that I was lucky. Like I mentioned, it came pretty early in my career. And it went away pretty early as well. I was dropped immediately after the first tour.
Oh, wow.
So in that sense, you just have to believe and have that belief that, look, I can go and make it in the big league. And the moment you start performing once, the first performance is the critical aspect. Once you know that you've been able to bowl well and pick wickets at the international level, then to repeat that becomes that much easier.
Well, Lunch University, you heard that. That's pretty much in their teens, right? Teens, early 20s, that's where opportunity strikes and they've strived. Which brings me to the next question, which is about challenges per se. Lions University, I don't know whether you remember, I think it was probably a year apart for both of you. 2002 for you and ma'am 2003 for you. 2002, I don't know how many of you remember, Anil's playing in Antigua, it's with West Indies, and he's got a fractured jaw. I don't know whether you remember the strapped up picture. You guys remember? Yeah, I do remember because I was watching. What an incredible moment. You bowled 14 overs on the trot. You got the wicket of Brian Lara. Incredible. I mean, that was so inspirational to us. And that was in the year 2002. And for you, ma'am, 2003, you go to Paris. It's the World Championships. You realize that you have a medical condition. And there's a doctor who tells you, I think you should drop out. And then your husband says, hey, no, we go out. We just, go around the streets of Paris. We just watch the game. And then you actually go out there and win a medal. The first Indian to do that in a world championship. Brings me to the question of challenges per se. And I think these young students out here are constantly facing challenges. And those challenges are essentially battles with their own mind. I was just wondering, how do you overcome that challenge? What did you do? What was your mental state? How did you get through that? If you could describe to us, that would be great. Anju ma'am, we can go with you first. 2003, like I said, for you.
Yes, I guess it's the same story for all the sport people because we are taking challenges as a challenge. And we are, every time when we face a challenge, we are actually getting ready for that. It's a kind of, when I go for a major championships, every minute I write in my book.
Can you hold it?
Every minute I write in my book, 12 o'clock what I should do, 12:05 what I should do. So it's everything is minuted and I'm well prepared. And we are imagining the same situation again and again in our brain and we are ready for that situation. And both the side, good and bad, we are imagining and we are working for that. And see, we need a team behind us. It's not a single achievement for every athlete. See, for me, luckily my husband was, actually he was acting as a mentor, acting as a coach and acting as a doctor and he was all in one. So he is a big visionary. When I was very young, he is the one who initially injected that feelings in me that I can win the world medals or I can be there on the world stage. I was not ready for that. I was just thinking, because that mental barrier was there in my mind also that I am only good for an Asian level medal. But he is the one who told me that you have got all the capacity and ability to win a world championship medal. So a mentor in your life is very important. Just believe in yourself, believe in your capacity, believe in your ability and just do all out. Dream and dream until your dreams come true. That's the best thing you can do. Day in, day out, dream about that.
Dream Alliance University. That's the message. Anil, yeah.
I think in sport, especially when you're playing in a team sport, it's not about looking at another colleague as your competitor. The competitor is yourself. You're competing against yourself day in, day out. How can you get better than what you were yesterday is the biggest sort of question that you constantly ask. And what can you do consistently towards achieving that? Because the moment you start thinking that I need to play for India, yes, that dream is there. But how do you do that? You can't constantly start putting pressure saying, oh, the selection trials are tomorrow, so I have to do this. The moment you start giving outside influences, so to speak. I mean, selection is not in your hands. In your hands, you have a ball in your hand, you can go and bowl and get wickets. You have a bat in your hand, you can go and get runs. The moment you start giving importance to selection, being dropped, doing well, and then suddenly feeling that, no, now I can do everything. All of these start putting undue pressure. The moment you keep that away from you and focus on what that day should be like how Anju mentioned. You sort of list out all the things that you need to do to be prepared for the game. So every day when you prepare, you're preparing as though you're playing a match. You're visualizing, thinking about various situations, about the opposition batters, looking at how you can bowl at them, and then preparing yourself the previous day or leading up to a tournament, saying that this is how I'm going to be. So when the actual moment is happening, it's in your subconscious mind. You're not really thinking about outside noise. Because the moment you're not doing that, that's when you feel the tension. It's as good as examination. You know, when you write your exam, we feel nervous on the day when you're actually picking up your pen and waiting for that question paper to come to you. There's a gap of about 5 to 10 minutes when the examiner says, okay, time 9 o'clock, it's 8:50 now, let's wait till 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
That 10 minutes is a long 10 minutes. You feel nervous. No matter how well you've prepared, you're nervous. But once you see the question paper, then you know that everything comes back because you've prepared well. If you've not prepared well, then it's pretty obvious. So it's as good as going through the entire syllabus and then looking at the question paper and then understanding, rather than saying, okay, I need to go for 100 marks, but I'll only study for 50 marks, and then I'll expect 100 on 100. That won't happen. So it's very similar to that when it comes to preparation in sport as well. So the moment you start conditioning your mind to all of this, challenges become easier. So you love those challenges. You want to be in that moment when things are tough because you're prepared well, and that's what determines who you are as a character. When things are easy, it's easy to go there and then do the job. You know, when the opposition is finding it difficult to come in and get your wickets is easy. When it's 100 for no loss or 200 for no loss, and then the captain is looking out who's going to come and bowl, that's when you need to put your hand up and saying, look, this is challenging, I want to overcome this. And those are learnings, it's not a failure. People think that success and failure are opposite words. It isn't. Failure is a part and parcel of the journey. You can't help but fail. But how do you get out of that? How do you sort of learn from those failures and then utilize that in the moments that, again, you sort of see in a situation is what determines how you accept those challenges and overcome it.
I think the message is loud and clear, folks. Dream and, of course, prepare. And you have that nervousness, but once, crunch time comes, you get going, it's pretty much poetry in action. In fact, I want to remind everyone that Suresh Menon writing in Crick Info about the Antigua test called Anil Kumble Lionheart. Yeah? A round of applause for both those points. Yeah. Thank you. Which brings me to the next question, which is, Anil, you have Tenwick, ma'am, you work with, your sports foundation, and you raised the issue of mentoring. How does this happen? I mean, how important is that mentor in your life? And once the mentor steps in, how does that process of mentoring in some ways, coaching in some ways, a training, because almost multiple hats that the person probably wears. How important is that, and how does it happen? And what has that, has that had any impact in your lives? Or in the lives of those young people that you've taken on at Tenwick or at your sports foundation? Ma'am, again, we'll start with you.
I always tell people, don't blindly believe someone and don't blindly follow someone. Be yourself and be confident. But always a mentor support is very good in your career, because as I said, Bobby was there. Whenever I am down, he was actually morally supporting me, and I had full faith in his words, because I knew that he is the one who is going to support me in my entire sporting career. After my career, I started Anju Bobby Sports Foundation in Bangalore. I am nurturing 16 young girls. I got them from all over the country. They came to me at the age of 13 and 14. very normal girls, village girls. But if you come and visit my academy, you can see all international types of figures there. That type of mentoring I am doing there. I
Wow.
am grooming the young kids. It's not only I'm teaching them how to do sports, how to do jumps. I am grooming a good next generation for our country, and someone can look up to them, and they can, for the next generation girls, actually they can dream big, that if they are good enough in any area, if they have any talent, they can be like them, or they can reach any position. Always, as I said, I am again telling you the same word: believe in yourself, and do your best. Maybe every day is not good for you, but someday, one day, you will reach the place where you want to. And always support your country, or always support your people, because as we too are here sitting now, because a lot of help we received in your younger days, and the same way we should support our next generation, and that's how it should be, I believe.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Yeah.
I think when it comes to mentoring, for me as a youngster, there was not much of formal coaching. I was very unorthodox as a bowler, so there was no formal coaching as such, but I looked up to someone like B.S. Chandrasekhar, who was more like a mentor.
Right.
So B.S. Chandra, when I bowled, people compared me with B.S. Chandrasekhar all the time. So I was lucky and fortunate that when I made it to the under 15 state camp, which was a 30-day camp, B.S. Chandrasekhar happened to be the coach.
Okay.
And that was my first interaction with him. And what he told me on that particular day stood with me for the rest of my career. He asked me to lengthen my run-up because he felt that that would give me the rhythm. And it's all about rhythm. I mean, Anju will also be able to tell you that no matter how hard you train, on the match day, when you're actually taking that jump or when you're running in, it's all about rhythm. It's all about how good you feel. You're not thinking about anything else. So
Right.
bowling is also about rhythm. It's about how you run in and then get that rhythm of bowling so many deliveries on the spot. So he said that to me. And the other important aspect, Anju mentioned, saying, look, you just don't go and listen to everything that is told.
Yeah.
It's also about what that particular person tells you, and how he or she tells you is extremely important. Keeping things simple. Because sometimes when you have somebody coming in to you and speaking about certain things, it can get complicated. Sometimes you can overcomplicate things. But it was B.S. Chandrasekhar who would always tell me, whenever I felt that I was not in my rhythm, or I was not performing the way I wanted to.
Sure.
Not just that, when people felt that I was not performing at the way I was supposed to, I would always go back to him and ask a question. What do you think? And he would say a couple of things. He would ask me a question. Is this working for you? Yes. Is this working for you? Yes. Then don't worry about anything else.
Wow.
Because that's also mentoring.
Yeah. Wow.
Mentoring or coaching doesn't necessarily have to be intrusive. Saying, you know what, this is what you're supposed to do. Just a couple of things, reaffirming that what you're doing is actually right. Things will happen. Just continue to be disciplined, continue to be consistent, then things will work out for you. And at Tenwick, the reason that we started Tenwick was that we wanted to develop the sporting sort of conditioning at a very young age at the grassroots level. Because in India, even today, sport is an extracurricular activity. The reason that this university is flourishing is because there are so many students wanting to come in and learn various disciplines, whether it is law, whether it is engineering, whether it is
Business.
liberal arts, business, any of that. But one day I'd like to see kids wanting to come into a sporting university, wanting to come in and saying, can I learn this? So we felt that the choice of a child to pick up a sport should be the child's, not the parents. Because in India, more often than not, it's the parent who decides what the child should be pursuing in sport. Now, today you need to go and do swimming. Today you need to go and play cricket. You need to go and run. I think from a child's perspective, yes, they're forced to, and they also, after a while, they come out of it because they're not enjoying it. At the end of it, the reason that we were successful was because we enjoyed what we were doing. And the moment that enjoyment goes, then you sort of say, that's it. So it's important for the child to pick up their interest in sport. So we felt at the grassroots, if we can offer 3 different sports based on the infrastructure that's available in a school, then the child will get introduced formally into 3 different sports. Right. And at the end of a year, 2 years, 3 years, they themselves will figure out that maybe this is working, that is not working. Or if you believe that, no, sport is not my thing, but at least it becomes a part and parcel of your lifestyle. You start following sport. You start being a part of a sporting ecosystem. That itself is a great, sort of stress buster. And we keep talking about mental health and all of the stress that each one of us go through in our challenging lives.
Yep.
Sport is a great way to take that out. When you sweat, when you go out and run or do exercises, it sort of gives your mind that kind of balance and that kind of calmness that only sport or sporting activity gives.
Thank you. Can we have the mics kept ready? So the audience, you have opportunities to ask questions, so keep the mics ready. I'm not going to monopolize the conversation with them, with the legends. So the mic's ready. Keep your questions ready so we can quickly ask those questions and they can answer. I just have one question before, they ask you what they want to ask, which is, if you had to give advice now to your younger selves, now that you know so much, that you know you're legends, what advice would you give to yourselves in your 20s and your teens? Yeah. What would that advice be, man? Can we start with you, man?
I think in our younger days, we had less opportunity we were not exposed to such kind of things. Whatever we are in, like I was in sports, so I was just focusing in sports. But one thing I did, I was not fully focused in sports until I realized I am good in sports. So I was just doing it for my parents. Actually, my mother, she is the one who forced me to come to sports because he identified my talent at very young age. She was completely focusing and dragging me to sports. But I think I could have little more aggressive, and I would have little more patient, and I would have little more ambitious. But with my limited, see, I have a lot of issues, like I had injury, very bad injury, then my health issues. But still I could reach the level, still I believe I could have won a medal in the Olympics. Unfortunately, because of the Russian doping issues and my health issues, I ended up in a 4th position. So that's the one worry in my life. But still, with all this naughtiness, I reached up to a world level, and I reached, I got a world championship medal. So I think my childhood was okay.
Yeah. What would the older Anil Kumble tell the young Anil Kumble?
No, I have absolutely no regrets. Whatever my life has sort of panned out, I don't think I can ever sort of look back and think that maybe this should have changed. I think all the challenges that I've come through, I am what I am because those challenges came up in front of me. If they were not there, then I don't think I would have been who I am today. So I think in terms of one aspect of my game that I could have perhaps focused a little more at, when we came in at 17, 18, 19, during that time, weight training wasn't a part of our cricketing culture. Okay. We were told that you just keep running. So probably we kept running and bowled a lot of overs. So no regrets, because that certainly helped me in bowling so many overs and then laying a strong foundation for all the overs and all the things that I did on a cricket field. So for the first 7 or 8 years of my cricketing career, we never were asked to go and do some weight training. But after that, I took into weight training, and that sort of helped me get stronger.
Yeah.
As you grow older, you need to get fitter for you to compete. It's not the other way around. And that sort of helped me
Right.
ensure that my career sort of lengthened because of the training and the structured ways of nutrition and all the inputs that we received during that period, late 90s, early 2000. So that last 10 or 12 years of my career, I got to understand all of this. And that happened only because of an injury to my shoulder. So I think that was the only thing. If probably it had happened at a young age, maybe I would have been a lot more stronger as a younger Anil Kumble, but I don't think I would have been more athletic. I don't think so. That was not in my genes. So I have absolutely no regrets. One thing is for sure, that what I am today is because of cricket and because of all the things that came in front of me, whether it was skill challenges, whether it was personal challenges, whether it was performing on the field, those kind of challenges. I think you become who you are because of all the challenges, and the mind starts working solutions to those challenges, because that's critical. We are all trying to solve problems. The more problems you solve, the better you get.
Yeah, I think that's a critical takeaway. When you're young, take care of your mind, but take care of your body too, because that's gonna, stand you in good stead in the long run. Yep, Alliance University, I know you're keen to ask the legends questions, so can we have the mics being passed around? Please limit your questions to a sentence or two, and please don't go into a monologue, keeping the paucity of time.
Good morning, Anil. Here is the question to you. You do have patents. So what is your suggestions for patents?
The question was, do you have patents?
Yeah, Anil Kumble does have patents in the United States. So
Okay.
the question is, how do we encourage innovations?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So I think that's a great question, because, like I mentioned, I'm an engineer, but my engineering came through only after I retired from cricket. So I certainly have a couple of patents that is in force. We developed a sticker, a sensor sticker that goes on the back of a cricket bat, trying to get data out of a cricket bat live when it is when it's in action, because we all believe that sport is art. Cricket batting is an art, but I also wanted to figure out what's the science behind the art. So that's why we felt that at Spectacom, we felt that this was something that we can pursue. We are still trying to achieve the revenue model. Yes, we have something in mind of trying to commercialize the product. We have tried that. It's still early stages, but from a product perspective, I'm really happy and glad that we've been able to innovate, because, Bangalore is the Silicon City in India, and innovations need to happen here. And I certainly believe that from a sporting ecosystem, there's hardly any research and development that happens. Without that, like I mentioned, we may be slightly later or late in embracing such nuances in our techniques when we are growing up. So I think research and development and innovation is extremely important in the sporting ecosystem if we want to be competing at the highest level, at the international level. Yes, we talk about Olympic medals, we talk about Asian medals, Commonwealth medals. That's mostly skill-based, and you're looking at training those athletes, those elite athletes. But if it happens at a young age, coming in with a little bit of innovation and technology, then I think sky is the limit for India.
I think the takeaway for us at Alliance University is actually an opportunity to work with world-class, legends like you, to in the area of R&D, whether it's research, whether it's consumer research, user research, and so on. So that's of course the takeaway for us. Yeah, another question.
Hi.
Yeah,
This
ma'am.
side?
You are audible, I think you are. Please go ahead.
Namaskara, Anil. How are you? First of all, a very good morning. I'm Koina Sharma from CNN News 18. Now that we are here at Alliance Literary Festival, let's talk about your book, where you've shared stories of your time as a player and coach. See, we already know that as a cricketer, you are a legend on the field. But when it comes to writing world, are there any particular challenges or obstacles that you actually faced during your career? And you have penned it down on your book as well.
A book is due, yeah. From both of you, probably a book is due. So, Anju ma'am, do you wanna start with that? A book is due. Maybe you should work on it. We had Syed Karmani and the other legend who had just launched a book. So, any plans of writing an autobiography where you write down those challenges that you have faced and so on? And of course, we'd be happy to support.
Yeah, actually, if you can go through my career and my life, it's more than a movie. You will get a lot of stuff. Yes, of course, I am also waiting for the time to come. I was dreaming a lot for a world Olympic medal, but unfortunately I missed that. So one of my award, I guess she will get that medal back to me, then I will write my book.
Okay. Anil, I'm just going to add to that, and not just a book and a movie, of course.
Yes.
No, I think from my perspective, I did bring out a photography book, and this was about 15 years ago. Yes, a book is due. I've been sort of coerced by my wife and a few friends saying, look, you need to write a book. And I started actually making notes after retirement. I started putting it on those days it was a dictaphone, and now you have a phone that can probably take in all the voice and record it. But I haven't really actually put together a book. So it's about due and maybe in the pipeline, but I haven't really thought about it. Before it erases from my memory, it's important that I start putting it down on a piece of paper.
I'm just still going to push for the film. If there's a movie, who would you like the star to play you? And Anju ma'am, who would you like the star to play you if there's a movie? I'm pushing for it. I hope that's all right. Not just a book, but a movie too.
No, actually, in long jump, it's very complex event, and I don't think any actors can play that role. But yes, I'm maybe Deepika will be at my.
Oh wow, Deepika doing the long jump. That would be interesting.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about a movie, but I'm not sure about my acting skills though. But no, I don't know. I think I can act myself, but I think it's important that, like she mentioned, it's important that I start cataloging and putting all my thoughts on a piece of paper first.
Right.
Yeah, there was a question. Yeah, ma'am.
Can I go?
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Hello, Anju ma'am. Hello, Alin sir. I'm over here. Okay. So my question to you, Anil sir, is that it's a very common discussion, drawing room discussion among us commoners, that post IPL we see that generally in the cricketing field there is a loss of temperament, and then there is loss of some sort of stamina to last 5 days. What is your take on that? Do you agree or disagree?
You said the loss of temperament? Is that what you...
Yeah, to carry on for
To carry
all the
on, the
5 days.
longevity, how do you manage that?
The game has changed, ma'am. The game is now fast forward. I mean, if you look at the formats, T20 to 50 over cricket and then to test match cricket. So in terms of playing time, I think has gone away, because the younger generation today are being brought up playing T20 cricket. IPL has been there for 18 years now, and an 18-year-old today aspiring to play for India would have first played a T20 format where runs are more important than the number of balls that you play. So when you have that as your foundation, then it's very difficult to change your mindset. And that's been the case with the game itself. But one thing is for sure, that it's become a lot more entertaining, and it's become very fast paced. In 2020 cricket, I mean, when we played early in our careers in a 50 over format, 250, 240 was a good score in a 50 over format. Now, 240 in a 20 over format gets chased down. So that's been the change, that's been the shift in mindsets. Having said that, I think Test cricket is still the sort of ideal format to test not just your skill but your character too. And I'm sure that will continue to be. And the younger generation will continue to aspire to play Test match cricket, but in a very different sort of approach because of the lesser number of overs that you sort of get used to at a very young age. So I don't see there's any change in temperament. It's just that they've been able to adapt from, for us it was the adaptation from a longer format to a shorter format. But in this case, it's the other way around. So one needs to sort of just understand that and then enjoy the sport.
I think we have time for just one more question. Yeah, ma'am. You go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anil and Anju and Ray. Now, in terms of sports and rhythm and discipline, my query is whether both of you have practiced singing and poetry as a way of rhythmic and discipline. And secondly, Anil, in terms of contemporary sports, there is a commercialization and commodification of sports. Now, how do we relate sports to the larger meaning of life? And it is in that sense, what is the relationship between sports, spirituality, and philosophy as part of contribution to living and serving the world rather than just making money?
So sports' larger role in life per se. You know, sport plays the implication of sport and life, the way we live our life, is at least the latter part was what was asked. And of course, there was a question about poetry and song, which is the arts. The link up between the arts and sports as a metaphor to live life a certain way. What would your thoughts be? I mean, does sport mirror life in some ways? Sport, does it mirror life? I mean, is it like life? You know, because you face challenges, it's similar in sports. Do you see some connections? Do you see, you know, transferability between sport and life and so on? What are your takeaways?
Sports, actually, it's a very, I think the talented ones only can be there in sports. But everybody needs to do some type of activities in their life. There we can connect sports. That's why we are actually pushing sports into schools also, because if you are into any type of activity from very younger ages, after 40 or 50, so you don't need to run towards the doctor to ask him what medicine I should eat. See, the government also focusing a lot on fitness, and we are doing a lot of actually the Fit India movements, the Hello India project for the young kids, the grassroots level support. See, a lot of things are happening because we realize that sports is very important, not only for playing or winning medals, for our health also. And see, as we kids, we played a lot outside. We got a lot of chances to mingle with many people, and a lot of activities also we used to do. But unfortunately, today's kids, we need to push them out from house to do some activities because they are always sitting with the phone and they are always eating junk foods, and the health is a big issue now. So for a healthy nation, sports in any form, I'm not saying just you have to come out and do sports for winning medals, but for your health. Health is the only one what we can actually keep yourself, and whatever money we earn, otherwise it will go in just a fraction of seconds. So do some type of activities. That's the way how we can connect sports and life.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Just to add to that, I think what cricket, at least from my perspective, teaches, which no other life skill can teach, is failure. Because every day at the end of it, sport, either you lose a match or you win a match, and you have to get over both. And that's something that I think is a life lesson for all of us. Because when you're in a corporate world or trying to get into that in a in a learning university, learning space here, competition becomes extremely difficult. And how do you sort of get over that? How do you get over those struggles within your mind? Sport teaches us. I mean, when you play cricket, I'll give you my own example. People sort of recognize me for that one historic moment that everybody associates me with, the 10 wickets. But 4 days later, against the same team on a different surface, I struggled to get 1 wicket. And that's the beauty about sport.
Wow.
And you need to sort of learn from that and then move on. Because you can't just struggle and say, okay, I could take a wicket today, so I'm gone, I'm down. You need to come out of it. And because 3 days later, again, you have another match. And similarly, on the other side, just because you picked up a 10-for, you can't just be floating in the air and say, okay, now I've done everything. All I need to do is just take a ball in my hand, things will happen. It doesn't happen that way. So you have to constantly go there and then repeat those moments. And then, yes, in a long career, hopefully the success will overcome. I mean, there'll be a percentage of more successful days that you see than the number of failures that you see in the end. So I think sport, in a sense, teaches us to get over those important life lessons, which I don't think any other sort of life thing that you do tells you at the end of the day. The result is important, but having said that, you can't really devote everything and then start focusing only on the result. You just worry about it. You just get over it if you failed, and you also get over it if you have succeeded. And then you continue to forget about the success or failure and then get on with life. I think that's the greatest lesson that I have learned from sport.
Wow, yeah, pretty much sport mirrors life in the sense that, wow, yeah, round of applause for that. Mirrors life, that you're not just learning how to manage successes, but you're learning how to manage failure. And so the playground pretty much mirrors life. Thank you so much for that. A huge round of applause for our legends here.
I have one question.
For that wonderful session, but the session is, yeah, thank you. I don't know whether we have time for another question, because can we take one more? Is that all right? Yep. If you can keep it short, please.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Good morning. Very good morning to the esteemed guests. I wanted to talk to you, ask you the question about the 10 wicket, 7th February 1999. And how did you manage to not be overwhelmed with the early success when you start getting wickets at the 3rd, then the 5th, then the 7th, and then finally you realize that, okay, I'm going to be the headliner here. How do you keep yourself grounded and be resilient that I'm going to approach this in a very steady, in a very calming way? And we require this. Our generation gets too overwhelmed with early success. So how do we keep ourselves grounded? Yes, sir. Thank you.
Fortunately, I played in a team sport. So when you have the team goals in front of you, because we needed to win the test match. We had lost the previous test, and it was only a 2-test series. So for us, it was important that we win the test match. And here, there was an opportunity to win the test match. Getting 420 runs on a final innings was not easy for any opposition. So that was the only thought process. I don't think I ever thought of 10 until I went past 7, and then 8 and 9 happened in 2 balls. So when you have 9 on 9, that's when perhaps it hits you that maybe you have a chance to get 10. Because in cricket, you may practice, you may go through your visualization in every game of picking 10 wickets in your mind, but never happens on the field. Only if you're destined to achieve that, it happens. Because there are other 3 or 4 of them within the team who are also equally, if not better, capable of picking wickets. So you just have to be destined to get all 10. I don't think I ever thought that today is the day where I'm going to get 10, because that never crossed my mind. So it was just the thought that you have an opportunity to win the test match, and just keep continuing to have that as the focus. Then individual things happen on its own. In a team sport, that's how it is. The moment you start thinking about your own performance, then it starts affecting you. The moment you start thinking about the team's performance and then how you can contribute, then your individual performance takes care of itself.
Thank you so much. Once again, a big round of applause. Yeah, thank you guys.